All right, everybody. Might be some more stragglers later, and that is okay. But I'm going to go ahead and get started. I pressed record. I know that's scary, but this will go in the library for the Creatively Christian Club, although mostly be David's speaking part. So if you are not, dressed to the nines like you would like, that's okay. You probably won't make a guest appearance. Yeah, so this is a free event that we're offering, a little sneak peek into the Creatively Christian Club, a membership that my company, Theophany Media, does to support different kinds of Christian creatives. We define that really broadly, but we focus a little bit more on storytellers in our membership, people that are very clearly trying to communicate Christ in some kind of way through some kind of communication, whether that's a film project or a story. But you could define storyteller more broadly too and include music and poetry in there as well. That's kind of deliberate kind of communication. The only thing it does kind of cut out is maybe people that are primarily physical artists. Not that, of course, art doesn't communicate, because it does. I just have no experience in that realm, and I am not equipped to help you succeed necessarily with selling that kind of thing. Not that you're not welcome to join us. Yeah, so this event I grabbed David because he has some cool projects that he's done. I'll read his bio in a second here, but I also mentioned in some of the advertising for this that I will give away one of his books free. And I'm putting everybody's names in a spinner, and at the end we'll spin the wheel and see what happens and who gets that. So that will be exciting, I think. And his book will just be an expansion of some of the things he's going to talk about today, as kind of I understand it, about getting unstuck. So without further ado, let me introduce to you David. He'll speak for about 20 minutes, and then be plenty of time for questions and answers and further discussion so we can all get unstuck. That is the goal here. David says that he loves God. That's a good thing. Loves people and is passionate about finding creative answers to everyday questions. He wrote the book Unstuck, Turned Potential into Purpose, to help creative and entrepreneurs go from dreaming to doing. He's a creative director by trade, as well as a storyteller, vision shaper, and relationship builder. David lives to inspire people and organizations to help them experience transformation. Another thing that it wasn't in his bio is that he organized a TEDx conference in Oklahoma City, which I think is kind of a cool achievement. And he has a TED talk. He has a TEDx talk that you can look up online as well. So you're in the presence of celebrity, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, so David, why don't you just jump in and go for it? And if there's anything else that needs to be added about your bio, go ahead and include that.
All right, you just broke up, so I'm going to take it from there, okay? Thank you, Jake, for the very kind welcome there, and it's nice to see all of you this evening. Thanks for letting me drop in, spend some time with you here. I think that this is a really cool thing that you've created, Jake, and just a community of creatives, the opportunity that's there. Just one little thing, I have not given a TEDx talk yet. I do coach all of our speakers, and so that's one thing that I get to do that is fun. So that's a blast on the journey. And since we are talking about that, I also MC it, and so I'm up there with the TEDx behind me. So you may see a picture like that. But we do have an event coming up May 6th of this year. So we've done a couple of those and excited to do that again. But tonight, let's go ahead and talk about Unstuck. I have a copy here, and this is the copy that somebody's going to end up with in the process, and I'm excited for that to help unlock something within you to help turn potential into purpose. If you would just drop in the chat on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being completely stuck, and 1 is like life is, or excuse me, 1 is completely stuck, 5 is I'm completely unstuck. Where would you put yourself currently if you were just saying, hey, this is where I am? All right, we got a 3. And this is my living room behind me. I'm sitting at the dining room currently, and I'm an extrovert. And so I was like, this is going to become a nightmare over the next however long. We don't know how long COVID's going to last. Remember that? Like, so I was at the Oklahoma City Thunder game where the game got canceled. As we were sitting there, we walk out and I go home and I'm like, what am I going to do? So I bought $70 worth of rice and beans. And then right after that, because I was like, I will have food if we're in a bunker. And, there was like all these different videos on Twitter back then of people in Italy on apartment balconies singing to each other. And I was like, we can't even leave our homes. Like, this is going to be rough. You remember what that was like at the very beginning. And none of us had ever gone through a collective global quarantine experience like that. So while I know myself well enough to know that like I could binge a couple Netflix shows, but then I was going to go crazy. And so I was like, I had to have a project. So this is my project. It came out because I knew that people were going to get stuck, just like I had gotten stuck in some difficult moments in my life. And I had also learned how to get unstuck. The other thing, though, is I missed out on watching Tiger King. So if anybody wants to let me know what happened there, I feel like I didn't get the true COVID-19 experience because I just didn't see Tiger King. So it swept the nation and it made Oklahoma famous. One of the few times that we were, we were actually in the news fairly often. But anyway, that's a side point. So, yeah, I hear you here. I didn't miss much, but that's great. So from the very foundation of Unstuck, the big idea is turn potential into purpose. And if I was going to ask you one question right now, it is the core question of the book. You could drop it in the chat. You don't have to, because it could be deeply personal, but the question is, what do you want? And talking to creatives. And so I wouldn't just stop there. I would actually say, what do you want to create? I think that that's something within us, right? Like the idea of a creative is that there's potential. It's sitting on the shelf. And what we want to do is take that potential and turn it into purpose. So if you were going to just take inventory for just a moment as to what the dream is, what the thing is, maybe it's an idea, a concept. It could be for a blog, it could be for a book, it could be for music, it could be for painting. I don't know. But if you were going to say, this is what I want, what would you say? I want to create this. And if you would, drop it in the chat, because I would just love to see. I think something powerful happens when we get to share that with each other as well. The first thing that you have to do, and it's interesting because people say, what do I do if I'm stuck? Like, what do I really do? And on the cover of the book, we say clarify, commit, and create. But honestly, the first thing that you really have to do is you just have to acknowledge that you are stuck. Like, you cannot change or heal what you do not acknowledge. I love that. I want to create music people are excited to listen to that points them to Christ. I want to create some cool Christian art. Anybody else on what you want to create? Christian theme art. Yep, Christian theme art, music, and poetry. Love that, Michael. I want my writing and public speaking to become my living instead of working around a job. I love that, Mary. That's exciting. So these are things, this is sacred, guys. It's vulnerable. It's difficult. Oh, I like that. Christian comics. It's actually really, I think sometimes when we say, this is what I want, it's vulnerable. And Christians specifically are taught not to ask that question. Instead, we just say, God, what do you want? and what's crazy is that's not the question God asks us. Like when Jesus turns around and he sees Philip and Andrew following them, the first question he asked in the book of John is, what do you want? And as far as we know from like the age of his ministry, that seems to be the first question that we have on record from Jesus, which I think is really important because he's really getting down to like, what you want is what's inside of your heart. And so, you know, I think sometimes we can so Christianize our lives that we just miss out on like the beauty of what God gave us, and that is a life to live, and that you can take your life as it is and create something incredible, beautiful, and amazing with it. So here is what I've learned, is that after we acknowledge that we are stuck, there is a process to it, and that's clarity. Would you like a little clarity tonight? Yes, yes, yes. Is the reason that you're not getting what you want because you don't have clarity? Could you say that? Like I got an idea. I mean, clearly you've articulated this is what I want, but what's my clear path? Like, what's the vision? So let's do this. Let's clarify your vision. So we're going to do this. Are you ready, Jake? Like, this is fun because this is a little bit different than if we were like just talking on a podcast. You guys are here. Can we just like, can I give you something I would do if I was actually working with a group of people? And hopefully I know we got like 20 minutes. Now we're talking like, I don't know, less than that, but let's get unstuck. So first thing is write down on a piece of paper or on your Mac. It doesn't have to be a Mac, laptop, whatever you're on. I'm just on a Mac. So anyway, what do I want? And get really clear about that. Okay. You've put it in the chat, but now I want you to go ahead and get really clear about it. Okay, so after you write, this is what I want you to do the next thing, which is really vulnerable, but it's really exciting. When do you want to do it by? So with this book, what I did was, it was wild, guys. Like I took this term from my friend Amy Downs. I trapped myself into success. I contacted this guy because he said we're doing it's my friend Matt Stansberry. He said we're giving branding away for free if you'll give half of the proceeds away over the first year of this project. I was like, okay, cool, like that sounds great. So I called him, and then all of a sudden I was in these committed phone calls with his branding team. Like, when we had agreed that I was going to write a book. And then I was like, oh no, like this is just an idea, but now, and then I went and I hired my friend Marcus Jackson, who raps under the name Cadence. So if you look right down there, it says, listen to on Spotify or listen on Apple Music. We took the songs and we put each song into a track. And so we actually created a hype album on it. So what I did was I went and I hired different creatives who are actually like, I'm just telling you guys, like I knew when I was hiring them, like and it didn't start with, I'm hiring you. It started with like, hey, I'm doing this project. Would you maybe be interested? And I was like, they're all going to tell me no. Like, absolutely. They're all telling me no, because these guys, like, I was loosely connected to them. A couple of them, I'd become better friends with, but like, we're talking collectively millions of streams, some of them millions of streams per artist. And I'm like, they're not going to join me on this project. But then I gave the vision, we made a deal, and, they turned a chapter into a song, right? So now I'm in trouble because now I'm actually like paying artists, and the book's supposed to come out before the album does. But I'm not done with the book yet. So I know, like, I gotta hustle. Like, I gotta move this thing. So that's why you can't just say, what do I want? Until you have a due date, until you have a deadline, it's really a dream. People say until you write it down, it's a dream. Until it has a launch date, it's a dream. But once it has a launch date, now, like, as soon as you do that, if you're like me, you're gonna get butterflies. I was like, oh boy. So literally, I mean, this book, it happened in 3 months. March, I think it was March 11th was when I walked out. I'd kind of been writing a little bit, but I hadn't gotten very far. So what do you want? When do you want to do it? Now, let's go to something that's a little bit difficult to talk about sometimes, and that is, you know, from this idea of what you want. People always say, "What's your passion?" Right? And so clearly, like some of you have already kind of shared what your passion is, because our passion turns into our art. I'm not saying that's the only thing that you are passionate about, but if you're saying, I want to create Christian theme art, music, and poetry, I want to do Christian comics, like this is out of a passion. And if it's not, it's going to be really difficult to do it long term, because you're just going to be pushing a big rock uphill. But when it's passion, it's burning inside of you. The Latin word for passion comes from the root word, or the word passion comes from the Latin root word passio. And that means what you're willing to suffer for. And so, you know, when you think about like your passion, it's not just what you're like on fire about, but it's also like what you're willing to suffer for. And so I think that that's part of creativity. Creativity is a bit of a war. It's a battle. And for me anyway, like I've experienced not like physical suffering, but it's just like the pain and vulnerability of going through this process and actually putting your things out there. But I'm telling you, we need your stuff. We need more things that are authentic, that are true, that are real. So step into it. If you're going to burn with passion for what you want, here's the flip side. You have to burn up some things that you shouldn't have. They don't belong in your life anymore. So, all right, here we go. I'm going to give you 60 seconds. And what I want you to do is I want you to write down all the negative tapes that spin through your mind. Now, some of you may not actually think that these are just tapes. You might not recognize them as lies. But I think about this as negativity, excuses, and lies. So can I give you a couple examples and then let you get into it? Like we're going right into the book tonight, and just because I've found that like when we apply these things, we actually get unstuck together. So negativity comes in with thoughts like you're not smart enough, you're not good enough, you don't have what it takes. That's me right here. Like those are my personal tapes. I don't know. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I said that those are mine, but if I didn't say it in the book, those are mine. Okay. Like I know those tapes well because I've spent years with them. I have an older sister. I've got two older sisters, but the one in the middle, she's the one that the oldest and we always refer to as the smart sister. Because like she's great at math, she's great at everything in school. Like her ACT was off the charts, and then there was mine, and it was like maybe we can get a scholarship, maybe not. So negativity. Second one is excuses. These are things like this, and these are things I've said for years. I got really busy. I just haven't had time lately. I've been focusing on myself, whatever that means. I'm still not sure, guys. Just been focusing on myself. Cool. What'd you do? I've been focusing. I'm too tired, and I get it. Like sometimes we actually are tired, and we do. But if we are, just take a nap. Go to bed early. Then there are lies, and I think for Christians, recognizing it's important for everybody to recognize it. But a lot of times Christians don't recognize the difference between negativity, like a negative thought, and a lie. So like here are three. And these are three of mine. You don't deserve to be happy. You don't deserve good things in life. You aren't worthy of love. Okay. So those are like three of mine. And I didn't realize like early on that it's not like I wake up and it's like, you aren't worthy of love. Like, it's not like that. But when I got down to like the things that were motivating me and like, why am I doing some of these things? It was like, oh, that's it right there. That's the playbook. That's what the enemy uses against me. Okay. So you don't have to drop it in the chat, but I'm going to give you 60 seconds to write down the tapes that are spinning inside of your mind. Are you ready? On your mark, get set, go. as you're going through this, I'd encourage you, don't overthink it. Like if it comes to your mind, just write it down. Like we're getting rid of all of this stuff that's holding us back. We're just going to take that. We don't have time for it anymore. We don't have energy for that negativity, for the toxicity of it. We aren't going to live lives that are defined by negativity, excuses, and lies. Those are what stand in the way of us creating something beautiful with our lives. All right, you ready? That's 60 seconds. When I first did that exercise, they gave us 30 minutes. That was a little while to think through what some of those different things were. Does anybody want to drop one in the chat? You're welcome to drop in the chat. You don't have to, but one of the things I found is that a lot of times we think we're the only ones who are wrestling with those thoughts. And so sometimes just knowing, hey, I mean, I hope when I say, these are mine, Jake was like, no one cares about my art. Man, hey, totally get that. Totally get that. Yes. You keep, yes, you keep falling. Why would you expect it? Yes. Come on. That's so good. You're a mom. You're not, woo, yes, you're not allowed. Wow. Disconnected. Is that the tape? Are you saying that you are disconnected, like from the chat right now? Won't provide enough income. Okay.
No, just in general.
Okay.
You know, from society and church and family. So the creativity, it's kind of like therapy.
Yeah.
Right.
I love that. Won't provide enough. Hey, all of these are real. They're legit, but they're not really something. Okay, so I'm gonna do my best to pick these apart right now. No one cares about my art. Hey, let me tell you a quick story about this. That's exactly how I felt a lot of times. I was like, I'll put this out, nobody's gonna buy it. And then I was like, worse, they will buy it. If they buy it, then they're gonna know I'm a fraud. Like then it's like it's doubly bad. And then like I'm living in OKC here, and I'm like, oh great, like people are gonna think I'm, this is like a self-help book, and then like I'm gonna be in a coffee shop hanging out, and they're gonna be like, oh look, Tony Robbins wannabe, right? I mean, no, I'm creating art. I'm taking something and trying to share it with people. You're a mom. You're not allowed. Actually, because you are a mom, you are allowed, because you've been doing crazy stuff for a long time if you're a mom. So you already know how to get more done than just about anybody on the planet. Disconnected, and I'd say reconnected, because of things like this. This is reconnection right here. And one great thing as well is that when that tells us you're disconnected and you're on an island, somebody else is on an island, and that's a text away. I think sometimes even a call away feels a little overwhelming, but like a text, just, hey, just want to say what's up. And sometimes people don't reply to me quickly. But I'm still trying to do it. Won't provide enough income. It might not. That's not a good reason though, not to start. Because it doesn't have to. What I've learned is that once you start and once you start creating things, it unlocks the whole creative process for you. It's like, the Lord talks about it from finances, like in the scriptures, but the principle of you reap what you sow. The more you sow in creativity, the more that comes back. I used to think, man, if I write a book or if I do that, I'll come out, like I won't have any more ideas. And then it was like, oh man, like I started writing and I started getting 10 more for every, different thing. So, I'm relating a lot of these. I don't have the skills to pull this off. Perfect. Won't provide enough income. There it is. I don't have the skill set to pull this off. So Mark, that probably I don't know, for me, that feels like I'm unqualified when I have that. Let me tell you a funny story, because this is like this week. Is that too soon? Like vulnerable? Oh gosh. So I got this email from a lady named Mary. Hi, Mary. And she was like, do you want to come speak at this writers conference in Dubuque, Iowa? This is a real story, and I sent it to my intercessors, and I was like, give me like 4 days. Every time somebody asked me to speak at like a conference or something, I'm like, yes, 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 every time. And I was like, I'll get back to you in like 3 or 4 days. And one of my intercessors was like, write a list on like why I would and why I wouldn't, put a line down in the middle. I was like, oh, okay, well, can't wait to do that. You know, like all the things I tell people to do, now she's telling me to do. And so I write down why I wouldn't. And immediately I'm like, oh, I know why. I'm unqualified. I'm unqualified to talk at a writers conference because they actually have real writers there. Like, I just put a book out, but like they got people who have written books that are actually like literary works, you know, like, and so I told Rosa that, and Rosa was like, well, I think you found your answer then. And I was like, yeah, because God loves for us to do the things that we're unqualified to do. Like, as soon as you feel like I got this, you're no longer like, you've lost your competitive advantage. But when you're in that tension of like, I'm like gonna have to depend, and I think God's always taking us in the creative process back to dependency. So here's what I want you to do with that list. If you typed it, I want you to print it physically, like legit print it. If you wrote it down, like put it into like a bowl, take it outside, put it in your fireplace, light it on fire, watch it burn. I know it sounds a little crazy, but there's a story. A lot of people just tell about Cortez, but it's generals throughout time and space have done this, where they were going to go take new land. And this is, of all nations, this has happened. They would sail to a place, and before they would go and step out to take new territory, they would have their military burn their own ships. And the reason was that they had to have a point of no return. We didn't go through this exercise so that you could just go, oh, like sometimes I feel bad. We all feel bad, everybody does. But this is to say, these things will not define me any longer. And physically set it on fire. It's the best feeling in the world. Okay, so do that tonight. And after you do, email Jake. And okay, let's keep going from there. Jake, I know we're about to hit the 20-minute mark if we haven't already. So I'm about to wrap on this, and we'll get to more dialogue. But second step, okay, don't worry about time at all. Dangerous words. Mary's like, you're uninvited after this. So here we go. After we've gotten rid of the negativity, the excuses and lies, after we've set the past on fire, we're ready to create the future that we want. Okay, don't worry, I won't go past the hour mark. Probably. This is where I think you have to live out of like identity. And as a Christ follower, having a clear identity is really big. For me, I can tell you this, like every big mistake I've made in my life has come when I've been disconnected from my identity. And every time that I back down in fear is when I forget who I am. But when I remember who I am and whose I am, like living from that place is really awesome. So here's what I want you to do. I got my moleskin right here. Okay, it's actually a Lichtenberg or whatever. Oh, there we go. Jake's got something. Make sure you do what you just said. I could tell it. It's a, if you do this, then okay. So write down I am. Just I am. Which, by the way, this is how God introduces himself. Now, he doesn't need any adjectives, but you do for this, okay? He says, I am, period. And you're like, yeah, you are. But I am a, and then after that, what I want you to do is I want you to think of your best day creatively, your best day with family, your best day with friends, and how you felt in your very best moments. I'll tell you what it is for me. I am a passionate, loving man who can do whatever God tells me to do. On my worst day, I am an anxious, depressed man who can never do what God puts on my life. That's how I feel. But on my best day, I'm a passionate, loving man who can do whatever God tells me to do. That's mine. So I'm going to give you 60 seconds again. You're at a creative experience, so your adjectives don't have to be perfect for you. But let's just start writing down like some of your favorite adjectives. And even if you go, this doesn't quite define me, I wish it did. Just go ahead and write down some of those as well. I'm going to give you 60 seconds. There we go. Okay, so here's mine. All right, mine is I'm a passionate, loving man who can do whatever God tells me to do. Do you know, like sometimes when, and this came from a great moment in my life. I was down at this thing called Pathways Core Training in Dallas, and they take you through a thing called a contract. And so this was mine. I love this because this is who I am and this is how I want to live. But if somebody's like, hey, what's your contract? I actually feel awkward sometimes saying it because I'm like, am I really? You know what I mean? What did you write down? What did you write down? Can you drop it in the chat? You don't have to. Woo! Got some spice. Love it, Jake. Oh, Mary is coming in strong. Andrea, is it Andrea or Andrea? One or two? Andrea, two, Andrea. One, Andrea, got it. All right. Love it. Anybody else? You might be processing it for a while. Might be thinking through it. I'm a really big believer in this quote from Craig Rochelle: "Our life moves in the direction of our strongest thoughts." And one of the things that you have to do if you want to not just get unstuck, but stay unstuck. Oh, there we go. Child of God, I can do anything I said on my team. Yes, yes, you can. If you want to stay unstuck, living from a declaration, like living from a bold declaration and just like owning, like, this is who I am. And the things that happen inside where it's like, just the devil loves to talk smack. I had one of my colleagues today who they had a great experience, and afterwards, you know, the tapes just started spinning. And so a couple of us got to say, hold on, whoa. That's not what happened at all. You actually did great on that. And this is how God worked through you, and like got to speak to that. But a lot of times we don't have coworkers catch us. A lot of times we just have a bad day. We go home and we're like, I'm the worst. They're the worst. Everything's the worst. And no, this is what we speak. We speak about who he is and who we are. And out of that, now it's kind of like, a lot of the questions inside for me after I own it are settled. I'm a compassionate, expressive, thoughtful woman who loves well. I'm a child of God. Let's go, Mary. Come on, man. Y'all are setting some stuff on fire tonight. Setting your past on fire and then pouring fuel on the fire for the future. All right. So did you write down the date on which you were gonna make your move for what you want? Go ahead and drop that in the chat. Oh man, this got real. Got some stuff happening quick by the end of 2021. All right. We got some stuff happening here. Okay, so let's do this. Michael, you said July. July, what day?
Yeah. Okay. I'll go July 5th. That's my grandson's birthday.
Okay, July 5th. What time?
I don't know. Dawn.
Dawn. Man, you are up early. Love it. We all create at different times of day. Jake, you got to just set a little reminder. And that's a celebration day right here. That's a celebration day.
I mean, I don't plan on, extravagant things. I mean, just to, have a couple goals in mind, get done.
Absolutely. Hey, we don't need extravagant. We just need steps. One of my things in life is like, hey, we don't have to get all the way there. We just have to get like a little traction. 3 undeniable wins equals momentum. 3 undeniable wins. And a win is something I can actually say. So like I was talking to a friend yesterday who runs a great nonprofit in town. And I said, what's a win? And he said, having our name out where the entire metro knows about us. And I said, that's great, but we can't measure it. Now, if we say where 7,000 people follow us on Instagram, we can actually measure that. If we want to talk about how many people see a post, we can measure that. If we want to talk about song downloads, we can measure that. It's more difficult to measure. And so sometimes when we're unclear about even like a day or what we want to have done by a day, that's where things get a little bit more difficult for us. Okay, so everybody, that's great. January 2022. I'm just going to say, hey, Andrea, this is great as well, but we got to have like, let's go instead of by the end of, so that's like December 31 at 11:59 p.m. Andrea's like sliding through at the finish line, like under the catcher's gloves, like I made it, but okay, so let's go ahead and there we go. My first chapbook will come out before December. Yes, 1 book per year after that. I love it. I love it. Okay, so let's go ahead and get really specific even on the date and the time. And then set it in your calendar. And then text 2 friends who will hold you accountable, not the friends who are the encouraging ones, but the ones, I mean, yeah, you want them to encourage you, but you don't want the ones who are like, you can't do that, it's impossible. Trust me, you can. But you want the ones who will be like, hey, how's your writing going? How's your music? It's great. Cool. What'd you do with it? Been thinking about it. Great. You gonna make a beat? Nah. We got to go from thinking to doing. Okay. December 31 at noon. Perfect. Okay. Get really, really specific. And then, which by the way, we talk about that in the chapter called Bullseye. Bullseye is the idea of we're not just trying to hit a general target, we're trying to hit a bullseye. We're trying to like right there as clear as we can. So how do you do that? There we go, January 1st, 2020 at noon. So specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, time bound. Are y'all familiar with SMART goals? Okay, well, can somebody scribe? Because I can't talk and type at the same time. Y'all are already seen that happen, and it's just like I glitch. So SMART stands for specific. Can somebody type this in the chat? Specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. So, you know, I remember my sister said to me a few years ago, she's like, would you help me with some marketing for Beachbody? This is at Christmas time. I was like, okay, cool. Like, what do you want? And she's like, I want you to take a before picture. And I was like, hold on. And she's like, you're my marketing project. And I was like, what? And she's like, hey, me and my husband, Lynn, like, we're worried about you, buddy. We want you to be here a long time. I was like, I don't think it's that bad. So she was like 4 months pregnant, and we went to the gym and we did a 15-minute workout, and I threw up and she didn't. Like, and then I realized, man, maybe I really am like truly out of shape. And I was like, in my, like, the direction of my health was gonna, it was just gonna be bad long term. And so that was when I said, okay, I've got to start working out. Am I in the gym every day? No, but I'm a lot healthier than I was in 2015. The only way that I got there, or 2015, 2016, the only way is by getting really specific. So specific isn't, I want to be healthy. Specific is like, today I'm going to, you know, some people are like, I'm going to write 350 words, or I'm going to write, you know, 1,000 words. I don't do that. I said, I'm going to write for 30 minutes. I don't know how much I'm going to write. It might flow, it might not. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to sit down and write. And I know, like, I can control that. So each day I'm going to do that. By calculations, that's going to get me, you know, over the next 4 weeks, I'm going to get 5,000 words out. I'm not going to edit it. I'm just going to write it. 10,000 words. I don't know. I'm just going to get the words out. Okay. Measurable, like, I can measure whether I'm doing it or not. Achievable, is like, can I achieve it? Like, yes, no. On this on the next project I'm doing, originally we were going to do 8 music albums, and we were going to try and do that in like 18 months. And then I had a few people go, that's not like achievable. I'm not kidding. Like, we were legit working on the plan to roll out 8 music albums with other things as well. And it was like, man, maybe we shouldn't do that. Okay. Because the 4th is realistic. So it might not be realistic to say, like, I don't think I could do this between now and June 23rd this year. I might be able to, but I was able to do this because of COVID. Like, it was realistic to write all the time, you know, and then time bound. So once again, we just did that. This is where I think a lot of creatives get stuck, is that they don't actually make a plan and see, I've got to take these steps forward to get these things done. So God's giving you potential, and you get to do something really special with it. I love the story of the parable of the talents, because there's like no blueprint given. You guys remember that? It's like, here's 5, here's 2, here's 1. And the one with 5 was like, hey, I went and I made 10. And the one with 2 was like, I made 4. And the one with 1 was like, I hit it. But none of them had a blueprint on what to do. They just got the talent. And he wasn't like, hey, I need you to go in this way and do these things or whatever. It was like, I'm giving you this. So we don't get to choose what's been given to us. We just get to choose what to do with what God's given us. And what's cool is that when you risk in the kingdom, it's rewarded. The only one who's taking a risk is the one who doesn't risk. Okay, so here's what I believe. I believe that there's more inside of you than you would think is inside of you. I believe that there's more talent, more gifting, more ideas, more creativity. There's more inside of you than you believe that there is. And the way that we turn the potential into purpose is we just start with a clear vision. Clarify your vision, you get clear on what do I want. Then you ask the next question, how will that feel? Most people don't visualize how it's going to feel. You have to let yourself feel like, oh, yeah, when I get there, it's going to feel good. Okay. Number 3, what's in my way? Number 4, here's your challenge. What do I need? Because what do I need is the place where most people stop their creative process. And when you're fighting for it and when you're digging for it, it's not necessarily, I need like these financial resources to get this done. For me, a lot of times it's like, I need encouragement today. And so when I'm writing, when I'm creating, I make myself reach out to people. It's a discipline to do that just as much as it is to work on the craft. In fact, I don't remember which chapter it is in here, because after I wrote it, I didn't really read it, you know. It's kind of weird to like, let me read my own book, you know. There's so many great books out there in the world. Hopefully I get to read some of yours, but there's a great moment in here where I texted the producer of the album, Marcus Cadence Jackson. I was like, dude, I just feel stuck. I don't want to do this. Like, I'm nervous about this thing, but what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to sit down and write for 15 minutes. I think that's what I said was 15 minutes. I was like, we're just going to keep pushing forward. And that's what you have to do. If you want to create, you just have to push through the vulnerability, because eventually it comes in and it's like, man, you're on there with these other musicians. They're real musicians. You're not. You don't belong there. Don't do it. I told Marcus, I literally told Marcus like 10 times. I was like, let's take my songs off of the album and let's just do their songs. We had already recorded all of it. And he's like, no, man, it works. I was like, but it might not. Next day, I'm like, hey, what if we cancel my songs? Next day, I'm like, hey, I think this could be really strong if we just had 5 songs. And finally one day, he's like, dude, we're not doing it. Like, all 10 of the songs are going on there. And then I find out from people that they're listening and they love the album and they're working out to it. And it's like, that's what we've made it for. But I couldn't give that to people if I didn't fight through all of those thoughts. I'm not making up stories. This is the real war of art. This is the like difficult thing where you're putting your heart out there, you know. And then like you go down the other day, I went down a Commonplace and they've got it on their shelves now, and it's like, man, that's so cool. I took a picture, and then there's a part of me that's like, maybe we should like get the book off the shelf so that nobody can see it and nobody can buy it. That's the war. That's the war that's always going to happen. It could always be better. It could always be more. It could, but at some point you just got to do it. You just got to ship it. You just got to launch it. You just got to move forward. So that's what I would say. Start by clarifying your vision. You did that tonight. What the only thing we didn't do was count the cost. I'm expecting that you're going to do that on your own. Next thing is commit to the path and then create the results that you want. If you want to find out how to do all that, you might win a book, but if you don't, just go to Amazon.com. No, this is not a commercial, but seriously, I do hope that it helps you. We're going to be dropping resources for it as well over the next few months. Currently, my Facebook and Instagram are deactivated. I'm just doing that during Lent. That's not like a faith humble brag. I just decided to shut it off for a while to kind of like get some focus again for creative projects in the future. My LinkedIn is still going. We'll be dropping content here like over the coming months. So love to connect with you guys there, or on my website as well. I hope that you register for the conference that Mary's running, the Faith Writers Conference. Come and hang out with us there. And yeah, at this point, Jake, I'm going to turn it back to you. And I don't know where we go from here, but I'm here for it. So.
Hey, thank you so much. Thank you so much, David. That was some awesome stuff. Well, I want to spin for the book here in a second. And then, David, if you have a little bit of time, we can take questions or just kind of feel where we're at. I don't want to take up your whole night, of course. But before we spin the magic wheel that I put all your names in, a couple things. Like I said at the top, this is a little peek into the Creatively Christian Club that we've just launched recently. So we're kind of trying to figure out what it's all about. But one of our main focuses is on encouraging each other, battling those mindset issues that David already talked about, those tapes that play, and being accountable to each other, and being those people that can say, hey, did you meet your goal? Hey, are you there yet? In a loving way with other Christian creatives that are also kind of on a similar path. So if that is something that interests you, everybody here there's a special discount code for you. If you go to club.theophanymedia.com and use the code Unstuck, all capitals, you can get 50% off either your first month or 50% off a whole year. So you have an option there, and I'll put those links and stuff in the chat. The second thing I want to mention that there is we do offer a free podcast, the Creatively Christian Podcast. Two people here today are some of our hosts, Bill Brooks with his guitar, and Andrea Sandifer with her super fancy mic equipment and things. Yeah. Both of those two are two of our four hosts, and we kind of rotate, and we have some really cool stuff. An awesome one dropped today, actually. Matt Tommy is an artist mentor, and he talked about renewing your mind as a key to helping your faith, art, and business. So you'll definitely want to go wherever you find podcasts or on YouTube and check out the Creatively Christian Podcast. We just launched in January, and we just hit over 1,000 listens. So we are actually going to have a celebration on Saturday. I'll also in a second here put a link in the chat for a Facebook Live event that we're doing with all the hosts and me. And we're just going to kind of chat, take questions, and celebrate some of the achievements, talk about, most our favorite episodes and things like that. So yeah, that's all the kind of the details that I wanted to pass on. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me. You probably found this out through Facebook, and I'm on Facebook, and Theophany Media is on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all those places. Reach out into the internet void, and you'll surely find me somehow. So let me share my screen. Let's see. Here it is. Okay. I can't actually see people, but hopefully you guys can see that. Somebody wants to unmute their mic just to give me an affirmation that you can
Looks
see
good,
this.
Jake.
Okay, thank you. All right. I have everybody here. And except for David, but I figure he has enough copies of his own book. And I will spin the wheel, and we will see what happens. Wow. All right.
All right.
Jimmy, good job. Jimmy, I will be in touch with you later. And we will send that book to you. And I will actually buy that book at a local bookstore, support local, and then I will email that up. Not email, just kidding. Mail that to where you're at, up in Washington. So that will be cool. And I think that should be a blessing for you. if it's anything like David's talk, and I'm pretty sure it is, then it will be awesome, and it will just be more of that awesome. So that is great. Great. Okay. Yeah. If anybody has some questions for David, speak now or forever hold your peace. Essentially.
I don't have a question, but I have a comment. So David said that when I asked if he would speak at a writers' conference, he thought about all the real writers. 10 years ago, when I stood in front of the first writers' conference I would ever attend, I stood outside the door about 5 minutes thinking, even though I'd been writing for 25 years, thinking that I probably didn't belong there because I wasn't a real writer, although I do not yet know what a real writer is, what that means, but that's the way we all feel. And in the 10 years since, I've taught at that same conference every single year. Not only that, but I've signed 6 book contracts. And there is something about the Christian Writers Conferences that they have this circuit of speakers, and it's the same speakers at all these different conferences all over the United States. And I did that for my first 2 conferences. I started a conference 2 years ago. And so I did that. I was choosing from that circuit of speakers. And then this next year, I wanted something different. Because I kept hearing people say they were stuck in their writing. And so I just kind of Googled Unstuck for writers, and David and his book popped up. And so I listened to a couple of his speeches on YouTube, because I don't ever hire anybody unless I've heard them. And I thought, this is what we need, this person who, yes, has written, but who can help get people unstuck creatively. And that's why I landed on you. And I don't think it was just a coincidence. I think it was God, because I didn't want what all the Christian conferences were doing. I didn't want the speakers who had 30 books out or were a literary agent. I wanted somebody who could inspire and encourage. I can get a lot of speakers for the craft of writing, how to write dialogue, how to do devotions, how to do that. I needed somebody energetic, inspiring, and encouraging, and I think I found him.
That's awesome. I love it. Thanks for joining us, Mary.
Yep.
Thank you, Mary.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Regarding like cancel culture and that type of negative platforms that we're all on, and we're sharing our creative works, with inspired by the Holy Spirit. And what's your take on that? Like, I find it holds me back, out of some kind of fear that's inhibiting, I think.
It's a good question. It was a part of a conversation a few days ago about cancel culture, and one of the things I think creatives do carry is a responsibility in how to navigate, and particularly Christian creatives. The terrain of culture has shifted, and so personally, I think that there are many different approaches that a Christian can take in that. I think to influence culture, there's something to me about being part of culture, and having a winsome message from within it. And so, I think it depends on who you are, what your calling is, and how that plays out. But I also believe that with cancel culture, there's a lot of noise made sometimes about a few people. What's really exciting though is when you have things like this happening, which, hats off to you, Jake, because when you have a tribe that are committed not just to the craft, but to each other, I think that you're actually giving each other encouragement. It's a place that builds energy, that can help build momentum to bring the good and the beautiful and the true into the world. And so, you know, I think that there are a lot of critiques that are getting, the critiques are always going to be out there. That's part of the danger of creating anything. And right now, the critique is maybe formed into canceling in a way or another. And I see that from all sides. And I think that that's part of what social media has trained our minds to do. So I'm going to, in what I create, I know that I'm an ambassador of hope. And so what I'm going to create around are things that point people towards that, as opposed to, you know,
Politics.
yeah. And even if I engage in politics, you know, I wrote something a few months ago, and it was around some of the complexities that we were walking through in COVID. And I didn't really come out of it with answers in what I wrote. What I was trying to do was share there are a lot of different perspectives, and it's not as clean as any one side might you know, say in the process, where we quarantine here, but now we're seeing that child abuse is going up. And the reason for that is because, you know, kids are now at home with their parents, and some of them aren't safe, and some of them have just lost jobs, and all of these other, you know, factors that are really impacting the well-being of children. So we have schools closed, and we have quarantine going, but we're doing quarantine to keep people safe. But now part of our population isn't safe. What do we do about that? I don't have the answers on that. But for, you know, I think what's dangerous sometimes is we read our version of the research, we read our version of what's out there, and a lot of times we don't get access, and especially if we do it through social media and the algorithm. Anyway, I'm kind of chasing a rabbit now, so I'll bring it back in. But I think, like, being able to look at perspective, being able to move people towards hope, towards each other, towards love, is something that, as a creative, is something that I want to spend more time doing than, you know, taking one side and throwing rocks at the other. So that would just be my vantage point.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, Dave.
Hey, Bill.
Hi, Bill, sorry for not participating. I don't have a keyboard. I can't type long sentences on my iPad.
You got a
One
beautiful
finger at a
guitar,
time.
though.
That's right. Looks good on the wall. Still looks good.
Yep.
So thank you for what you said about not feeling like you're a real writer because you only wrote one book.
Yeah.
I have a connection with David Finch, and who's a comic artist. And when he talks about his own art, he talks about how he's competing with other artists, and he's doesn't feel strong, confident about his own art. And he had to deal with what do you call it? The complex, imposter complex. Right. When people find out that that you're not as good as you say you are, is not that you don't really belong in the professional world. So it doesn't just affect people who have only written one book. It doesn't only affect people with a little bit of experience. So, but I have a question. Is there anything in your book about crowdfunding or about fundraising for your own artwork?
I don't cover that, but I bet that there are some great books on it. In fact, I tried to do a documentary. This is a great moment of, like, we tried a crowdfunding project. When was this? This is like 5 years ago, and I had no idea how to do it. And, like, we had this ambitious goal of like 20,000 for this film project. And we ended up raising like $700, and it all went back to the people because we just couldn't. And it was like, oh man, it was actually, I love this. I'm sharing all my humiliating stories with you all tonight, but it was a fantastic fail. I do think that there are some great resources out there, though.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions or comments or anything? Everything's said that needs to be said. All right. Well, assuming nobody interrupts me. Okay. Yeah. Bye, Mary.
Bye, Mary.
Okay. Good. There we go. She's reading David's book now. Awesome.
Jake, what I would say, just
Yeah,
one
go for it.
follow up from that final thing is that's maybe the best thing that I can share is I think I just wrote this because I failed a lot. And that's one of the great things about creativity is it lets us, it gives us the room and opportunity to fail. And, you know, I'm a bit of a perfectionist, but I kept looking back and I was like, man, I kept trying to get there and I didn't, and it was a failure. But out of the fail, when you fail forward and you keep moving forward, it's like, oh, I learned some stuff from there. So I'm going to do it different this time. I'm going to like shift and do these things. And that actually, so I would just say that is like, I think that the fear of failure holds a lot of people back, and failure is just a blessing. It's such a gift. It's never pleasant in the moment, but like big picture, it's totally worth it. So if you are going to fail, I hope you fail big. But really, I just hope that you go after what you want.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It was a big privilege to have David here for our first kind of meeting. I don't want to turn this whole thing into like a pitch thing, but I forgot to say some things about actually what goes on in the membership, so I'm going to reiterate some of that. We're going to have a monthly kind of mastermind like thing, like what we did tonight, where somebody's speaking to us and engaging with us, so we can kind of get some of that little free coaching. And then we'll also have another monthly discussion Zoom where we can all kind of help each other instead of having like, you know, the guru, the expert. We all help each other, encourage each other. And in addition to chats and groups and forums where we can talk to each other, there's some other fun things like quarterly promotional opportunities and thinking some occasional like kind of co-working things that kind of a time set where we can all sort of work on something together at the same time and different fun things like that. All of that is over at the website club.theophanymedia if you want some more information on that. But that is all I will say about that. I want to thank everybody for joining us, and go check out David's website and his book and all of that stuff. You will be blessed. I know that for a fact. And to keep up with all the zany things Theophany Media is doing, you can follow us on social media or go to our website, theophanymedia.com. And that is what I got. I'm going to pray us out because, you know, we're good Christians here. But that feels like the right thing to do in this space after we've had kind of a raw, personal kind of conversation. So if you allow me to do that, we'll wrap it up. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for allowing us to gather together, different people from different places, to kind of gather in this space and get to learn and grow together. We thank you so much for David and his ability to kind of get us to think about these hard questions and to address the negativity and the excuses inside of us so that we can fight those demons to create more and create better to glorify you. Lord, I pray a blessing over everybody that came tonight and also for those that weren't able to make it, that you are with them, that you are empowering them to be better Christian creatives, and ultimately through whatever they do to point it back to you. And in Jesus' name, amen. Amen. All right. Thank you, everybody. Through some links in the chat if you need to go and copy paste those or whatever, because I'm going to end this thing here in a second. So thanks, guys.
I just want to say thank you, Jake. Oh,
Yeah.
he's gone. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Jake, for putting this on. This is good.
Of course, of course. Also, we did a last minute live stream with Mary on Tuesday. If you want to learn more about her and her poetry, it's on the Instagram for Theophany Media. It was super cool.
Was very spur of the moment.
It was, because our regular guest in the show, but she was there saving the day. All right. Thanks, guys. I
Bye.
will hit end.